It is getting serious in Big Ten country, and the Big Ten standings are rounding into shape. We're starting to get a lean on the contenders, and of course, some of them are expected, some are not. And you may want to look at that one loss column in regards to a number of teams that have that just one loss that may have a shot to do something unexpected. Welcome into the Big Ten Live Show here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. We do this each and every Tuesday with Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm, Tuesdays at 6 Eastern. Corey, how are you?
I'm good. Contenders and pretenders, right? So is it fair to say we learned this past weekend that Penn State is a pretender? I think it's fair to say USC is a contender. I think we determined whether if there was any doubt before. Rutgers is still in pretender status. I don't know that Iowa can be called a contender, but they did what they were supposed to, right? We talked a little bit about that last hour. And then I think, Maryland was exposed yet again. A team that knows how to find ways to lose. They do that every single year. How that guy still has a job is amazing. Talk about the difference of expectations between Maryland and Penn State. Think about that. They've lost 2 games and had a let's see. Let's do the math here. Well, I guess it's just a 2 time zone difference. So they've had a total of they 1 time zone difference this week. Previously was 3. So 4 advantage of 4 time zones. And they've found ways to lose both of these last 2 home games. So they are definitely a pretender. Wisconsin's in disheveled mode. Penn State's not good. So yeah.
I look at it this way, Corey, that going into the season, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon were expected to be the elite, not just in the Big Ten, but nationally. Ohio State and Oregon still have that status to a certain extent. Obviously, Penn State is the Florida State of this year. They are the example of what can happen when things go bad. So obviously, they're in a completely different category. Then there was this group of teams, kind of headed up by Michigan, probably, of who was going to possibly join the elite. Then you had Indiana, Iowa, USC. I just think this middle of the Big Ten, Washington, Illinois, is extremely interesting. And now with games like the one you alluded to, USC really putting a thumping on Michigan. The USC-Illinois game plays a role in that. This week, we're going to see Washington go to Michigan, and everyone's focused on, the Indiana story is phenomenal. It is remarkable what they've done. They went to Autzen Stadium, clearly outplayed Oregon. We're the better team. But there's this string of one-loss teams that are fascinating to me, and I understand that a UCLA has no realistic shot. Nobody expects them. I don't expect them. But if we're just looking logistically at the standings in the conference, UCLA is 2-1. They only have 1 loss in the conference. They have won the last 2 weekends, and they're right there with Michigan and USC and Illinois, Iowa, and all these other.
My question is, should their interim coach be considered for the coach? No, I'm serious.
Yes.
Yes.
He should be.
So we can agree on that. Yeah,
Yes.
Especially if they keep winning. He deserves that opportunity. And their offensive coordinator, right? And Neuheisel's kid.
Yeah.
And Iowa, Penn State. I mean, I know we talked a lot about Penn State. It's hard to really break down the matchup. Don Patterson and I, we were live at Big Grove Brewery in Iowa City last night talking about the matchup, but we spent a lot of time talking about the situation more so than the matchup because it's hard to really know what this is going to look like. Kirk said today during his media availability, he expects Penn State to play the way they play. They better play better, right? They better do it better than they have been. Unbelievable effort. I give credit where credit is due. I did not expect Indiana to go out to Oregon and win. They did. They won that fair and square. Really, really impressive. Hey, it's impressive for USC to cross over through a couple of 3 time zones and beat Michigan, right? No, I'm sorry, UCLA
Yeah.
That's right. I'm talking about UCLA. They crossed 3 time zones, beat Michigan State. It's impressive what USC, the manner in which they beat Michigan. So yeah, I agree with you. The middle of the conference is fascinating, and we're going to learn a lot more about that middle this week.
Yeah. USC, I watched every play in USC Michigan. Wasn't going to miss that game. And USC, I expected that to be Michigan comes in with a hammer, the running game, the defensive front, and USC is going to throw it around, and it's going to be this classic boxing match of different styles. But USC missing 2 of their best offensive linemen and their top 3 running backs. Hammered them for 240 yards rushing, over 6 yards a carry. Plus, they threw it around. They could have scored 40 points. They turned it over deep in the red zone twice. They were so impressive in that game. Now, the question is, they go to Notre Dame this week. Do they have it in them to post those kind of efforts back to back? That's something we haven't seen out of USC. We've seen them beat LSU and Texas A&M and take Penn State overtime last year. They are good enough on a given Saturday to play with anybody in the country, but can they do it 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah. And I'll tell you a fascinating matchup this week. And I mean this seriously. The line is 17.5. Oregon crosses 3 time zones to play Rutgers. I know that doesn't sound like, Rutgers did not look good last week against Washington.
They did early.
They were competitive with Washington. Yeah, it was neck and neck, and until that second half, and Washington ran away with it. But how will Oregon respond to that loss? And again, going across the country. So that's a fascinating game. You have a battle of Nebraska and Minnesota, which I find fascinating. There's talk about a couple of teams that, very sneakily, slowly, incognito way of getting to 2-1. I don't think either of those teams are very. I think Nebraska will win, but that game, if I'm not mistaken, is in Minneapolis. So, yeah, it's not necessarily a bunch of. Certainly not like last week. There aren't these. Normally, Iowa, Penn State would be a really exceptional matchup. Normally, Ohio State at Wisconsin's an exceptional matchup. Normally, Washington and Michigan would be a great matchup. So you don't have those prize fighter type of battles this week, but a lot of really solid games as we see this conference take shape.
Yeah, again, if we would look at the conference standings, we would just see so many one-loss teams, 2-1 in the conference. Nebraska, Minnesota, the other teams that we mentioned. So there's going to be a lot of separation here, a lot of key results here. And Vegas really loves Nebraska. They are an 8-point favorite on the road in this game. Now, let me double check this.
I don't think
Minnesota 8.5-point favorite.
But Mark, Minnesota's not very good.
They're not, but Nebraska's not very good.
Well,
is Nebraska really that good? They had to struggle to beat Maryland, and
again, traveled to the
East. When have they ever beaten anyone any good?
Traveled to the East Coast and did it. I'm just saying. I think maybe I'm wrong on this. I think the Sharps recognize how difficult it is to go across the country and win on the road, or just play. That's why what Indiana did, what they did was so impressive. That's what UCLA did was really impressive this weekend.
You ignored my text because I was counting up these games while we were watching. I think it was Friday night's game, the Washington Rutgers. Now I'm going to have to update it because UCLA went to Michigan State and won, so they traveled 3 time zones, and then obviously Washington won their game at home in a 3 time zone difference matchup. The USC Michigan game. So I'm going to have to add those up. But we were at 12-8 entering the weekend, meaning the home team won 12 of those matchups where the team had to travel 3 time zones. So to me, that's on the surface. I think you got to delve deeper because you got to look at the matchups.
Yeah.
But on the surface, that seems to be inconsequential because the home team is going to win about 60% of the time anyway.
Why are you willing to acknowledge that you need to delve deeper on that, but you're not willing to acknowledge? But you're not willing to acknowledge delving deeper when you compare conference records and the non-conference.
I do.
You do? I always hear about the Big Ten's record versus this
I
conference
delve
against
deeper.
this conference.
I
Okay.
delve deeper.
All right.
Yes, I do.
Okay. But Minnesota's not very good. Got blasted by Ohio State. Very narrowly beat a very average to below average Purdue team. I think I side with below average. So I don't. Nebraska's at least their close games have been against slightly better competition. I mean, I think again, traveling to Maryland, that's a slightly more difficult game. Losing by 3 to Michigan. Obviously, you look back at the Cincinnati game, and I don't know exactly the process way Vegas determines these lines. I will say last week, Mark, Wisconsin's a program that we haven't spent a lot of time talking about, and I'd be curious to know. We talked about it last hour. I'd like to know if you think Fickle will be gone before the end of the year. But we have shook our head at lines before, and I'm sure there are plenty of times where we've done that and we've been wrong. But a couple of examples, a couple of years ago, Iowa was, I think, preseason projected to. I think their over under was at like 7.5, but their schedule was cake, and we were both like, "Wow, that seems crazy low." And they won 10 games, so we were right, and it made Vegas look dumb, right? Well, Vegas knows what they're doing more times than not. But last week, I made the comment, why is Iowa only a 3.5 point favorite at Wisconsin? Well, they won by 37. So did you say the same thing last week?
I said the same thing. Absolutely. That was the quickest decision I made all weekend.
I'm just trying to figure out where that came from. Why 3.5? That seems so low.
And I understand Iowa's not known, and even this Iowa team, even though they're breaking some stereotypes, they're not known to separate. But I was expecting that they would win 24-6 or something like that.
I had 24-10. I gave them a little bit more credit. I had 24-10. And so I know hindsight's 20/20, but we both said that beforehand.
And to Iowa's credit, Wisconsin, the week before, they went to Michigan. It was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. They put up a fight.
Yes.
It was never at a place where you thought Michigan was going to lose the game. I watched that entire game.
But we always say Vegas doesn't overreact. And that was one game with a brand new quarterback who came back this week and really lost Wisconsin the game early with 3 stupid turnovers.
That one screen pass interception he threw was like one of the strangest plays I've ever seen.
The one to Aaron Graves?
Yes.
Wasn't that nice, though? That was like a great catch.
Aaron Graves was like 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he threw it right in his gut.
But you got to admit, though, that was kudos to Graves for catching a quick pass and just immediately running the other way. How about throwing the ball behind you and behind your tailback? And it ended up being the fumble, the pass toward the Iowa boundary.
Oh,
and he throws backwards pass, slightly behind him.
Yeah.
Ended up being a fumble, and Iowa recovered.
We do have a call if you're ready to start rolling through some calls. We appreciate everyone being here. So Jackson Johnson's showing up. Jackson, how are you?
I don't see him. I see a banner. Oh,
no, I'm doing my best.
He's under there somewhere.
StreamYard.
Oh, I'm right here.
To get things
is this the real Jackson Johnson? Because people keep trying to steal Jackson's identity, is what I hear.
Oh, the one and only, you might say.
Okay.
Well, did you guys see this storyline about Netflix wanting to air more of Notre Dame USC? Because as you guys know, the contract ends after 2026. And
what contract?
The Notre Dame USC rivalry. And I'm thinking, if this is the way that the Notre Dame USC rivalry stays on, I'm at the point where I just say, so be it. Because I do not want to see any more rivalries going away from the world of college.
So you're telling us that Netflix is offering to air the game?
Yes.
Interesting.
What does that have to do? What does that have to do with the institutions retaining the rivalry?
Because apparently that's where it's at the moment. Because USC is not wanting to play in the middle of the season anymore. They don't want to be playing in October. And they want to be playing in week 1.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
So what's that got to do with the TV network?
Oh, there's a lot. Because I was looking at this story, about it, and it just tells me that it's not surprising where we're at this point. Because I was looking at it today, and I thought they got Major League Baseball opening day for next year. They've got the NFL Christmas Day for the next 2 years. Like, well, basically like every year at this point, because they're like, okay, we're getting beat by the NBA, so we're gonna have Netflix do Christmas Day games. And it doesn't surprise me that we're seeing college football kind of getting
I'm not really. I understand what you're saying, but I'm still lost as to what that has to do with the rivalry being played. If the two institutions want to play the game, if USC Notre Dame want to play the game, they'll play the game.
Notre Dame's happy,
and a TV network will be happy to air it.
Yeah, I know, right?
And they'll be happy to give them plenty of money to air it. Exactly. So I don't know what Netflix has to do. Like, if Netflix wants to play college football games, okay, fine. But and that won't make people very happy. I know a lot of Iowa fans, Mark, are upset this week with Iowa Penn State being on Peacock.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. USC's wanting to do it at neutral site. They're wanting to see if it's like at Vegas or Mexico City or some other location. They're not wanting to play it at the home stadiums like they used to. But the problem is Notre Dame USC was literally built on home and home. Florida, Georgia, yeah, they play in Jacksonville every year. But that's how they've been doing it all these years. Texas, Oklahoma has been playing in the Cotton Bowl all these years. Notre Dame USC in Mexico City or Vegas, I mean, that does not feel Notre Dame USC like to me. It should be at LA, or it should be in South Bend.
Absolutely. We need to hold to as many of these traditions as possible. But the first thing that hit me when you said Netflix is, I wonder what happens to the NBC and Fox rights, and do they get money back because they no longer have the USC Notre Dame game?
They still get something, I'm sure, but I'm sure they made a big trade-off. I just don't know what that trade-off is exactly.
Who's got the game this weekend?
Kind of like when
NBC.
Yeah, kind of like when Al Michaels got traded to when Disney traded him to NBC for the rights of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
Hold on a second. But the NBC game this weekend has nothing to do with it being a Big Ten game, right? Because
it's at Notre Dame,
part of the Notre Dame contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm surprised NBC didn't do that, to tell you the truth, because that would have been a wise decision. Like, have Notre Dame USC annually on NBC, because I mean, you're not going to have Ohio State Michigan on rivalry week on NBC or CBS. So here's what you do to kind of one up Fox or CBS: air Notre Dame USC on NBC every year.
What has happened to the Big Ten network? So Peacock is picking up another game. They've got a double header this week. So is Peacock kind of superseded the Big Ten network, apparently?
Well, no, the Big Ten network has a night game too.
Well, they got one game. They've got
they got two games.
Okay, they got they don't have a noon game.
I don't know. I have no idea why that is. There are no noon games besides Big Noon.
Okay.
CBS doesn't ever do no, they sometimes do. They have done noon games, haven't they? CBS.
Well, not for the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't ever done that?
No.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of I think they've done Iowa, Nebraska Black Friday at noon, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know they did Indiana Penn State at noon in 2023. That, as far as I recall.
I think it's odd that you would now, this has nothing to do with the big NBC's working on trying to, well, what do I know? We're trying to talk through this, Mark. You're the one who worked in television. You're the big money television guy. I would think,
and I'm becoming more and more separated from all of that.
So the reason I bring it up is my first inclination is to think, why would NBC schedule Iowa Penn State, which I would think would be a pretty big draw, along with Notre Dame USC, which is a big draw, on their networks at the same time? But then I think to myself, Well, they want both games, and I don't know. I guess my question probably would have been, could Peacock schedule a game at noon? Like, why wouldn't they want Iowa Penn State in a noon window where they're not having to compete with Notre Dame USC? I don't get that.
Well,
You see what I'm saying?
it's anyone's guess. I see what you're saying, but it's anyone's guess looking at these games, which game's going to draw the most. I would say USC Notre Dame's going to be number one, but that Michigan Washington game, it's a Fox noon game. It's going to have a huge audience.
Not as big as USC Notre Dame.
No, but it's going to have the second best audience.
Yeah,
or stagger. Could you stagger something? And I don't know. I guess it's a little staggered. See, Notre Dame USC starts at what, 6:30 Central, and I think Iowa Penn State 6 Central. I don't know. Jackson, you're supposed to be doing better, brother. You're supposed to be having all this figured out and having all the networks on speed dial so you can tell us.
I'm not there yet, but I'll get there.
Can you do me a favor, Jackson? This is what I want you to do. I want you to do some research this evening and give me your best educated answer as to, will Iowa and Minnesota next week be a noon game or a 3:30 Eastern game? Because they've announced that it will be one of those two time slots. So you do the math and figure out what is the most likely and what needs to happen for each scenario.
Well, Michigan State will be a noon game, I believe, next week, or it could be a 2:30 game. But I think it all depends on how Michigan performs.
This just got announced.
Yeah,
some of these got announced.
So without looking at the entire schedule, I would think that if Iowa and Minnesota win this weekend, and as Jackson is saying, the other games obviously impact this as well, that they're going to move that game maybe to a 3:30 CBS game. But if they both lose or one of them loses, and depending on how the other matchups shake out, then it becomes a noon Big Ten Network game.
Yeah, I'm looking right here. What we do know about next week is Rutgers Big Ten Network does have isn't that weird? Big Ten Network does have a noon game next week. So they're doing a noon game, Rutgers Purdue. And then that's the only game that has been officially set into a time slot at this point. So it'd be hard to guess, but they've said Iowa's either noon or 3:30. And then Wisconsin's either 2:30 or 6:30, Wisconsin, Oregon. Illinois, Washington's either 2:30, 7:30, or 2:30, 6:30, excuse me, Central. And then the other ones have no. It's like, why even announce? What are we even announcing here?
Yeah,
I feel like Wisconsin, Oregon could be a Peacock game because of the way Wisconsin has been performing. And Washington, Illinois looks like an NBC night game, because I don't think they want to. They're not going to be putting Washington games at 9 a.m. Pacific time on bid noon kickoff.
I think they're really focused on putting. It doesn't appear to me, again, Don, Mark, you ought to be able to tell me better, but it doesn't really appear to me that any of this, like who goes on Peacock, has much to do with success. Obviously, the big games are going to go on Fox at noon, but after that, it seems like a bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Like Iowa
is a crapshoot. The NBC 7:30 game is going to be a big one, and so is the 3:30 CBS game. Obviously, CBS wants Ohio State, and then but
it's Wisconsin. It's Ohio State, Wisconsin.
I know, but still, Ohio State.
And Ohio State has played on Peacock, so explain that, Mark.
Because everyone gets their cycle through the Big Ten Network and through Peacock. Fox is also put Ohio State against like horrible non-conference games at noon on Fox.
Oh yeah, Ohio State Marshall from last season. Like, oh my god.
but I'm just saying, okay, so everybody gets their cycle, and after that, because Iowa's already been on Peacock once.
Yeah, I mean,
so why are they giving Iowa 2 Peacock games, Mark?
Because they ran into this USC Notre Dame game.
Maybe they put Iowa, Minnesota on Fox Sports 1.
Well, then why can't they put Iowa and Penn State on NBC at noon? To me, that's why I keep going back to, I think some of this is they're trying to get subscribers. Isn't that what some of this is?
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
They're not just going to put it on NBC because there's an open slot.
exactly. So they are trying to walk a thin line between, okay, the traditional thought would be, well, the least number of people can watch it on Peacock, especially when all this started. So we're going to put the worst games on Peacock. Well, that's how it started. But then you can see them gradually. We're going to move better games onto Peacock to force people to have to get it. And it becomes, they're never going to put the best games on Peacock, but they're going to look for really good opportunities with either like one of the best brand teams by themselves, Ohio State, Purdue, or a really good matchup like Penn State in Iowa. That's how they get subscribers. That's how they get those signups that people forget about and keep for 8 months and forget that they have it.
Doc P says there's golf on NBC at noon. So that I guess I forget that they do have other things, right?
Yes. Golf that's going to get a 0.2 rating.
Does golf not do well?
And the NBA season starting next Tuesday.
Mark, does golf not do well on the weekends on NBC and CBS?
It never did in the past.
Really? Well, why? No. Why? I'm curious.
Especially
why
during football season.
Okay, so why do NBC and CBS carry? Why do they carry golf on the weekends every weekend?
Well, there's probably some kind of stipulation concerning majors. You know, does CBS still have? They still have the weekend of the Masters. After ESPN has it on Thursday, Friday, that if you want the Masters, you're going to have to help us out, or if you want whatever, the PGA Championship or the Ryder Cup, then
you got somebody in your chat who's getting vulgar here, Mark. Just so you're aware.
Okay.
Anyways, Jackson, anything else before we let you slide?
Well, I'll just tell you this. Tell your friends, family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magical lineup that is continuing after tonight's edition of the Big Ten Live Show with Alabama Primetime Live with Brody Smoot, Tucker Harlan, and Jordan Binkley, and myself, and John and TJ on Michigan Wolverines Live, bringing that magic on 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And by the way, if you tune in on Michigan at the Boys College Football, you'll see the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers of college football content, which are TJ Ronan and Manny Hunt on Michigan Kickoff.
All right, Jackson. Appreciate you being here, man.
Let's get the Voice College Football to 100,000 subs, and let's help Corey get to 100,000 on From the Hawkeye, the Storm, and 10,000 on Iowa the Voice College Football.
I love it. Good man. Hey, we hit 12,000 here in the last couple of days, Mark.
Nice.
12,000 subs. So appreciate everybody for signing up.
Yes. The vulgar comments that I see are just pot shots at me, so I can stand that. That's fine. I don't think anyone pays too much attention.
just any pot shots towards you, or this specific person's pot shots towards you?
Any pot shots at me.
Okay.
Are fine. I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this question. One game we've not brought up that I think is intriguing. Maybe this will have a lot of people turning this program off, but this is a Big Ten show. What's going to happen with Maryland UCLA? Talk about a team that's found ways to win versus a team that's found ways to lose over the past 2 weeks. Two teams seemingly trending in totally opposite directions. That's an interesting one because Maryland's got to go all the way out to the Rose Bowl and play. You could very easily have a UCLA team that's 3-1. UCLA's favored by 3.5 in that game. You're going to have a UCLA team, likely have a UCLA team that's 3-1 after this Saturday.
If they pull this off, and it's not some marquee win, obviously, over Maryland, but Maryland is good enough to stay in these games, as you say. You know, you used a word a couple times during the last hour concerning Penn State, and this goes back, I'll use it with Maryland, culture, that if you see a repeated pattern year after year after year, that they are good enough to, you know, they are not Rutgers of 10 years ago. They're not getting blown out 52-3 every week. They are winning these games. They're highly competitive. They had a 20-point lead against Washington. Like they could have notched Washington and Nebraska wins the last 2 weeks, but no, they blew it.
and yet he's still the coach, right? He's still the coach. And I'll say this: what's amazing about remind me of the interim head coach at UCLA,
Oh, good
Tim
Lord,
Skipper.
Skipper. Yes,
Tim Skipper. What's
yes.
amazing about Tim Skipper and what he's done there is I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're midway through the season. They don't have a chance at a bowl game. They've won 2 straight games, and they have no chance at making a bowl game. Do you realize that, Mark? Because they won no non-conference games, and there are not enough winnable games left on their schedule. And maybe Skipper has totally just found a way to make these guys believe that they live on another planet. But their schedule, he's getting these guys to win without really any hope of postseason. So that's why I think it's such a fascinating story. What is he getting these guys to play for? Pride? The school colors? That's something that's missing in the new era of college football, and he's getting these guys to do it. I mean, reasonably, they could beat Maryland. After that, maybe you could beat Washington. Every other game is a ranked team. I'm not saying it's be impossible, but they would have to win 4 of these remaining games to even get to 6-6. There's no chance that happens.
See, I wish they were playing a cake schedule the rest of the way to see if they could make some kind of run.
Well, I'll tell you what they got. I'll tell you what they have. They got an opportunity to shock more people. I mean, imagine if they beat Maryland and go up to Indiana land and shock the Hoosiers next week. No, I'm serious. You laugh, but you would have laughed when we talked about Indiana doing that to Penn State. What do you know? I mean, what if they did it? What if they did that?
You mean
Mark?
Oregon? No, I would not have laughed about Indiana beating Oregon. That did not surprise me.
I didn't say that. I said Penn State going out to UCLA.
Oh, okay. Well, no, you said Indiana. Penn State is
well,
what
you would have
said.
laughed.
Anyway.
You would have laughed at the idea that Penn State would go out to UCLA and lose.
Yes, I would have.
Now, I don't know that either one of us would have laughed about Penn State going to playing at home against Northwestern and losing. We still don't think it was going to happen, but we saw how bad it could get because we just witnessed it the weekend prior.
I would love to see UCLA make a run, but it's just that schedule is
what
brutal.
is a run? That's what I'm saying. What does a run look like? And the problem is 3 of those 4 ranked games, they're on the road. I mean, it's just, you can't draw this stuff up. But hey, Skipper's got those guys playing well away from home. I mean, they pulled the pants off of Michigan State. That was again to not just win. That team win coming off an emotional victory you know how emotional that win against Penn State was a week prior. To recover from that, go on the road, cross several time zones, and beat down on at least viable, decent Michigan State team. UCLA should have people. Indiana should be ready for UCLA. And Indiana, who does Indiana have this week?
Indiana's got Michigan State.
Yeah.
So my next question to you, or our little project, before you jump off here, unless you need to right now. There might just be too many teams to weed through. Everyone's penciling in basically an Ohio State, Indiana Big Ten championship game at this point. But if we wanted to sift through the 1-loss teams, maybe we'll do that next week because they're going to be far fewer 3-1 teams to see who could maybe have a path to get to the Big Ten championship game.
So we're assuming that Ohio State is going to beat Michigan on the road. They are going to beat Penn State. I mean, I think it's probably likely they win both of those games, but not impossible they lose.
Well, sure.
One. So that would then, they'd be back Oregon would be back in the conversation, frankly, as would everybody that we just talked about.
Yeah. So right now we're looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 teams to sift through. But this time next week, it's going to be 4 or 5, something like that, maybe 6.
Yeah, you have several 1-loss teams playing each other.
Yeah. And see, assuming Ohio State takes care of business and Indiana as well, they're going to be 4-0. And then we're going to see out of these 4 to 5 1-loss teams, who has a path to get to the Big Ten championship game. And actually, those teams will want to play, in a sense, either Ohio State or Indiana to knock them off, to get them out of the way.
Right.
And I'm intrigued by this Washington team. Nebraska, as you say, should beat Minnesota. That's what Vegas is telling us. Minnesota can't run the ball. Their running game is pathetic. And Iowa's obviously, well, again, they're only a 3-point favorite, but I think the conventional wisdom is that they're, think about how much we've talked about the Penn State game and Penn State coming to Kinnick, and suddenly it's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, no, I agree. And frankly, if Indiana played Ohio State tomorrow on a neutral field, I'm taking Ohio State, but probably close, based on how Indiana played this weekend.
Yeah.
So of all the one-loss teams left, first of all, who will be eliminated? If you had to guess, who will have 2 losses after this weekend? 2 Big Ten losses after this weekend.
Minnesota, Michigan. Well, obviously either Nebraska or Minnesota. I know who I want to win that game.
So you think Washington's going to go to the Big House and win?
I think they are.
Okay.
Check out my appearance on Michigan podcast, everyone, just to wrap that up. So I pretty much gave a quasi prediction on that game.
Yeah, Sonny Verma brings up a great point in the chat. Illinois got a great chance of winning out. The problem is, well, it's not really a problem, actually. It's really not a problem. If I had this conversation with Don Patterson last night, like, it's actually good if a team like Iowa finishes 10-2 or Illinois finishes 10-2, because and doesn't make the Big Ten title game, because there's a good chance a Big Ten title loss kicks you out of the playoff at 10-3. Whereas 10-2, I think it's likely you stay in.
Unless the committee does what they said they did last year, and they did not count those games against those teams. I don't know how you
They said they were going to do that.
Yes. But
Okay.
yeah, Sonny's right. The key games for Illinois is going to be that trip to Seattle. But otherwise, they're going to be a pretty substantial favorite in the rest of those games.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, man, that is a very – we talked about that schedule preseason. Sonny, my stance remains the same. If they win out, and I think they were competitive enough with Ohio State last week. It was about what I think you and I expected.
Yeah.
I expected Illinois to be mildly competitive. I did have Washington covering. But
you know what's funny, Corey, if I got my memory of our predictions correct, because I just added up records and obviously got your prediction sheet for this week to you, is that we were kind of going at it last week about me defending Vegas calling Ohio State a 15-point favorite. And you were talking about how Illinois is going to be competitive in that game. I ended up taking Illinois in the points, and you took Ohio State to cover.
Well, I was a little. First of all, I never make my predictions on Tuesday evening, so I had to look at it further. And once I did, I'm like, okay, I'll take Ohio State. But I thought it would be like this. I didn't think it would be 20, 25, but I thought it would be, somewhere between 15 and 18 points. I'm surprised you took Illinois. You normally say Buckeyes will cover because they tend to cover in those scenarios when you think it's too big of a spread.
They are a very methodical team. They are not an explosive Ohio State team. They're just playing really good defense, and they methodically move the ball in the air. So,
yeah. So, but Sonny, I'll stay true to my opinion that I think if they win out, they're in. I think Illinois wins out, they're in, and it's good that their 2 losses have come in the Big Ten.
So assuming we get the outcomes from Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon that we expect this weekend, which we may not, but that we expect, Corey and I think it will be a good exercise for us to try to find the dark horse that's got a path after this weekend's games.
Yeah. I keep telling people, I was right in it. They don't, none of the games left are unwinnable. That doesn't mean they can't lose, but they don't play Indiana again. They don't play Ohio State. They're obviously going to have their hands full at USC and home against Oregon, but one game at a time. This is a really talented Penn State team coming to Kinnick this weekend. And we didn't really get to it, but that was what I wanted to ask Marty last hour, was how he thinks Grunkmeyer will play in that environment. Because, again, the last time they threw in a quarterback, now that was mid-game with Taquan Roberson in 2021, but last time that happened for Penn State, he he had no hope in that one.
No.
I don't anticipate that happening. But that was I believe the last time Penn State came to Kinnick was that 2021 game.
Yeah.
So
I don't feel, or I do feel for this young quarterback, and I know he's been in the program a couple of years, but for his first 3 assignments, he goes to Kinnick to play Iowa's defense, Ohio State, Indiana. Those are his first 3 assignments as a starting quarterback.
I don't want to say it again, but I have to. Exactly what you just said is exactly why I keep touting that this is an audition for that interim coach, because the circumstances could not be tougher. So it's almost like, if I'm an interim coach, I hope the circumstances are really bad, because when I turn them around, it's going to look that much more impressive. Yeah.
This is all true. I agree.
I think you'll be singing a different song if they do turn it around. I think we probably would have said this. I think we probably would have said the same thing about UCLA a few weeks ago. We probably would have said, "Nah, they're going to hire somebody, some big name." It's UCLA, right? Like, that's still a really good athletic tradition down there. But now it's like, okay, Skipper might be the guy, especially if they, figure out a way to win a couple of these games down the stretch.
All right, folks. Corey and I get together every Tuesday for the Iowa show first, 5 p.m. Eastern, and then here for the Big Ten Live show at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We appreciate you being here, and you can catch me on the call-in show tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Corey, when is your next live stream or any kind of content?
Well, yeah, if folks missed the show at Big Grove Brewery last night, we appreciate the people that did come out. You can watch it back. We had some audio issues, but we were able to get back on the air and get that going. And we'll keep doing live shows here and there. We appreciate Big Grove Brewery for having us. But you can watch that show back. Coach Patterson and I talked about the game and just the situation at Penn State, et cetera, the big picture. And then we'll be posting media day content from Hoops, Hawkeye Hoops this week. So I've already got a video up for women's basketball. We'll probably put another one up tonight. And then men's basketball, we get them tomorrow. We'll get news on Tavion Banks, not Tavion Banks that played at Iowa. Tavion Banks, basketball player that was arrested here, a couple of days ago. Hopefully we get good news on that tomorrow. I hope he's not out for an extended period, but we'll get that news so people can keep it locked in on my social media for an update on that. And we'll we'll have plenty of content, and then more pregame stuff for Iowa Penn State, postgame after Iowa Penn State.
All right, Corey. It should be an interesting weekend, and we'll make it on back here next Tuesday.